So, up next, let's dive into what cinema is and take a quick look at its history, both globally and here in the Philippines.
Te, mic mo, te.
Ate kami, wala. Wala yung I'm sorry, wala yung presentation ni Ate Camille. Okay. What is cinema? Cinema is an art of presentation in lights that makes a picture possible to appear on a two-dimensional surface. It does not carry pigments on the surface since the subjects are viewed in a certain limited space. This art form is governed by drama, but unlike theater, excuse me, it is not presented in a live medium, although it is being experienced by a live audience. No one person invented cinema. However, in 1891, the Edison Company successfully demonstrated a prototype of the kinetoscope, which enabled one person at a time to view moving pictures. The first public kinetoscope demonstration took place in 1893. By 1894, the kinetoscope was a commercial success, with public parlors established around the world. The first to present projected moving pictures to a paying audience were the Lumiere brothers in December 1895 in Paris, France. They used a device of their own making, the cinematograph, cinematography, which was a camera, a projector, and a film printer all in one. So, first, let's define what cinema really is. Cinema is an art form. It's a way of presenting stories and emotions through moving images on a flat screen. What makes it special is that it brings pictures to life using light and motion, unlike painting, which uses pigments on a surface. Even though it's influenced by drama, it's different from theater because cinema is not performed live, but instead, the scenes are recorded and edited, but we still experience them in real time as a live audience when we watch the film. Now, who invented cinema? Actually, no single person invented it. It was a gradual process. So, but a big step happened in 1891 when the Edison Company introduced the kinetoscope. This was a machine that let one person at a time watching moving pictures by peeking into it. Like it's kind of like an early version of a video player. By 1893, the kinetoscope was shown to the public, and by 1894, it became a commercial success. People were amazed, and kinetoscope followers started appearing all over the world. So, but the real game changer came in 1895 when the Lumiere brothers from France did something no one else had done before. They presented projected moving projected moving pictures to a paying audience. This means they showed films on a screen so that many people could watch together at the same time, just like we do in movie theaters today. So, they used a special device called the cinematography, which was a camera, a projector, and a film printer all in one. So, that invention really kickstarted the cinema experience as we know it. So, cinema is more than just entertainment. It's an art and a technology that brings stories to life through like through light and movement. So, and thanks to pioneers like Edison and the Lumiere brothers, we can now enjoy movies as a shared experience. History of Philippine cinema. In 1897, the first film is shown in Manila. Silent movies began to gain popularity and public acceptance. Transition from silent films to talkies or films with sound, shift from black and white to color films. In 1940s, emergence of nationalistic themes, Japanese occupation influences the rise of war movies. In 1950s, a noticeable decline in film production and viewership. Excuse me. The industry struggles with quality and funding issues. In 1970s to 1980s, a turn toward serious themes, political, social, and psychological. surge in action, and sex films. Alternative cinema begins to take shape and challenge the mainstream. In 1990s to present, genres, plots, and styles become repetitive, often echoing American influences. Films start to revisit old styles with modern techniques, a conscious effort to align cinema with other art forms like literature, painting, and theater. So today, movies first came to the Philippines in 1897. Since then, cinema has changed a lot from silent films to talkies or films with sound. So from black and white to colored. As movies changed, they also started showing more about Filipino culture and beliefs. In the 1940s, during the Japanese occupation, movies became more nationalistic. This means they focus on being proud of being Filipino. War movies also become popular during this time. So in the 1950s, the film industry went through a decline. Not many great movies were made during this period. But in the 1970s and 1980s, things changed again. Movies started talking about serious topics, and we saw more action films, sexy films, and also independent or alternative films that were different from mainstream movies. So today, Philippine cinema keeps going through cycles, sometimes bringing back old styles, sometimes copying Hollywood movies, and sometimes creating new ideas. So Philippine cinema is also an art form, like painting, theater, or literature. So it needs to keep changing and growing with the times and with what the audience wants and feels. Thank you.
So let's move on to the elements of cinema, wherein cinema is a dynamic art form that distinguishes itself through its manipulation of time, space, and sound. And these three elements serves as a foundational components that shape how stories are told and how audiences experience them. Next slide. So time. Time is the most important element of cinema as much as images of moving pictures move in time. The movie director has a free way to manipulate time in a motion picture by contraction and I or expansion breaks or leaps. And time is the heartbeat of a cinema. It perhaps the most crucial elements in a cinema. And unlike static visual arts like painting or photography, film unfolds within time, making it a temporal art form. And the movie director has a unique ability to manipulate the time, compressing it, extending it, or even disrupting it entirely. And this allows for a more immersive and flexible storytelling approach. Next slide. So time in cinema can be examined into three distinct aspects. And the first one is the physical time, which refers to the actual duration of events as captured on a screens. Like for instance, scene showing a character walking across a room in a real time aligns with the concept of physical time. And next is the psychological time. It is the emotional impression of the duration of the action that the viewer experiences as he watches a movie. It also refers to the viewer's emotional perception or how long or short a moment feels. A suspenseful pause before a climatic revelation may only last a few seconds in real time but can feel much longer due to its emotional intensity. And the last one is the dramatic time, means the time taken up by the events which are suggested in the movie. It refers to the span of the events that the story covers, which may range from a few minutes to several years. And a film may depict an entire lifetime within 2 hours and carefully choosing key moments to develop its narrative. Next slide. So let's move forward to the next elements of the cinema, which is the space. Space is Space in cinema refers to the perceived depth and dimension created within the frame. It allows audience to believe in a physical reality of what they are watching, even though it's projected on a flat screen. This illusion of space is achieved through several techniques, including the scale, camera angles, and lighting. And the first and the width and the depth of the perceived reality in a movie, which is made possible through the following. And the first one is the scale, which refers to the size of the objects on the screen and its relation to the surrounding area. And for example, a close-up shot that magnifies a character's face, emphasizing its emotional subtitles, while a wide shot can place a character in a vast, empty landscape, suggesting isolation or insignificance. And shooting angle is a consideration given to a particular shot in relation to varied angles. And it also plays a crucial role that low angles can make a uh, character appear powerful, while high angles may portray vulne- vulnerability or weakness. And the third one is lightning, which means used to give the illusion of depth in a film. It is another key component in creation of a cinematic space. And the fourth one is frontal lighting to eliminate the shadow. It removes the shadow and offers an even neutral illumination. In contrast, the sideline or the cross light to sculpt the character's features and add depths by sculpting features and textures. Next slide. So the sixth is the the backlighting, which tends to create silhouettes. The lights come from the behind the subject, can be positioned at many angles, and these techniques can create an unobtrusively illuminated contour. Um, and it can also create a striking silhouettes, while the underlighting can suggest an off-screen fire that tends to distort features, and it is often used to create dramatic horror effects. And it is often used to in horror films and produces dramatic and unnatural shadows that disturb or unsettle. And the last one is the top lighting. The spotlight shines down from almost directly above the face of the subject for empathic purposes, wherein the light source comes from above, emphasizes specific facial features like cheekbones, and and to add more dramatic and glamorous effect. And do, and through these methods, space in cinema becomes a not just a visual background, but storytelling device in itself. Next slide. It is the last element of the cinema, which is the sound. It expresses the thought and feeling of a particular scene. Sound can actively shape how we perceive and interpret the image. And sound is the element that completes the cinematic experiences. And it is capable of expressing thoughts and emotions that visuals alone may not fully convey. And sound in film includes both diegetic sounds, like those originating from within the film's world, such as dialogue or ambient noise, and non-diegetic sounds, such as background music or narration, which the character do not hear but which deeply influence how the audience interpret the scene. And sound can actively shapes perception. Like for instance, a slow, melancholic piano piece can transform a neutral scene into something emotionally poignant. And conversely, silence can be just as powerful and heightening the tension or drawing focus to visual details. And the synchronization of sounds with moving images enhances realism, while deliberate mismatches can create irony or surrealism. Therefore, the elements of time, space, and sounds are not just merely technical components of cinema. They are the lifeblood of the art form. And together, they shape the way of the stories are told and how they resonate the viewers. And by manipulating these elements, filmmakers can guide emotional responses and can construct a believable world and convey profound human experiences. Next slide.
So we'll talk about some basic cinematographic techniques used in film. First one is cutting. This technique is something called editing. It consists of joining one shot with another shot. It helps eliminate unwanted scenes. So there are four common transition techniques in cutting. So um, first is fade. It shows a change of time and place. It shows the old image fading out and a brief period of darkness comes to the screen before the new scene gradually becomes visible. So this is when the image slowly disappears into black and then a new scene slowly appears. It is usually used to show a change in time or place. The second one is dissolve. It involves superimposition of the portions of the previous shot over the adjacent portion of the next shot to show two events happening at the same time. Um, when one image slowly blends into another, it often used to show that two events are happening at the same time. Third one is iris in, iris out, a commonly used device in silent movies. It involves from the edges of the screen to the center of the screen. This is a circular transition that closes in and or opens out starting or ending from the center of the screen. It was commonly used in the silent films. So fourth one is turnover. This make it look like the whole screen in flipping over, showing that we are moving to the next scene. Second one in is camera movement. Uh, This is when the camera moves forward, backward, side to side, or even up and down. It helps to show the development of ideas or emotions. For example, a camera slowly moving closer to a character can show rising tension or emotion. The third one is framing. Um, Framing is about how a scene is captured in camera. A good frame creates balance and focuses on the audience attention. It can also make a moment feel more emotional or dramatic.
Let's go to Philippine cinema. Now, let's go to the Philippine cinema. Next po. Okay. Philippine cinema is now in a cycle of genres, plots, characterization, and cinematic styles, consciously imitating American films and reverting back to old styles. As an art form, Philippine cinema must adapt to the broader cultural sensibilities and ideas that shape other artistic forms such as literature, painting, and theater. During the last decade of the 19th century in 1896, a Spaniard by the name of Bertiera prepared to launch his first movie show in Manila at Christmas time. The venue was to be at the Salon de Petiera, which established 9 months earlier as the phonograph parlor on the ground floor of the Casino Espanol at Calle Perez of the Escolta. But for some reason still unknown to this writing, Petiera failed to make his presentation despite several published announcements to this effect. The show kept being postponed until the new year. The first moving pictures in country introduced on January 1, 1897 at Salon de Petiera in Manila. The movie house was along Escolta, which is Santa Cruzan, Manila now. Next pote. Thank you. Finally, on January 1, 1897, the first four movies, namely Un Home Au Chapu, or The Man with a Hat, Una Scene de Danse Japonaise, or Scenes from a Japanese Dance, Les Boxers, or The Boxers, and the La Place de El Opera, or The Place El Opera, were shown via 60 mm Gaumont chronophotograph projector at the Salon de Petieras at noon 12 at Escolta. In other countries such as France, England, and Germany have their claims to the introduction of publicly projected motion picture, but the corresponding credit should have been given to Mr. Petiera. And the centennial anniversary of the first movie shown in the Philippines should have been commemorated on January 1, 1997. Next, please. Filmmakers. Next. What is filmmakers? Filmmakers are individuals who are responsible for creating movies by working in various roles such as directing, producing, writing, and editing. They collaborate as a team to bring a story to life through visual and audio elements. Key members of filmmaking team include the director, who oversees the artistic vision, the producer who manages the production process, the screenwriter who writes the script, and the editor who assembles the final version of the film. Other important contributors include cinematographers, sound designers, costume designers, and actors. Together, this professional form the creative force behind every film. Next po, please. Who is Antonio Ramos? Antonio Ramos is a Spanish soldier from Alhama de Aragon who had arrived earlier in the year with the Batalon de Cazadores, or the Hunters Battalion, which had been sent to quell the Philippine Revolution, was able to import a Lumiere cinematograph from Paris. With it, he bought 30 film titles. He did the acquisition with his savings and evidently with the financial backing of Liamban and Peritz. By August 1897, Liamban and Peritz presented the first movies at the Lumiere Cinematograph in Manila. The new cine was set up at Escolta, corner San Jacinto. The hall formerly occupied the Ullman Jewelry Shop. A test preview was presented to a limited number of guests on August 28. The inaugural show was presented to the back pa lang po. Thank you. General public the next day, August 29, 1897. During the first 3 weeks, Ramos has a selection of 10 different films to show, but by the fourth week, he was forced to shuffle the 30 films in various combinations to produce new programs. These were 4 viewing sessions, every hour on the hour from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. After 3 months, attendance began to slacken for failure to show any future new feature. They transferred the viewing hall to a warehouse in Plaza Goiti and reduced the admission fees by the end of November. In this early stage, the Philippine cinema were mostly wealthy men from Western countries and some Filipinos expatriates, or film the filmmakers were mostly wealthy men, rich men, or from other different countries. But there is one Filipino filmmaker that broke that pattern, which is Jose Nepomuceno in 1919. Next po. Yan. Jose Zialcita Nepomuceno. While most early filmmakers and producers in the country were mostly wealthy, enterprising foreigners and expatriates, on September 12, 1919, Dalagang Bukid, The Country Maiden, a film based on a popular Zarzuela, was the first movie made by and shown by a Filipino filmmaker, Jose Nepomuceno. His work marked the start of cinema as an art form in the Philippines. He is considered as the father of Philippine cinema, and he was one of the pioneering directors and producers of Philippine cinema. He is also known as the founder of Philippine Movies, and he had his own production company, Jose Nepomuceno Productions. He produced the first Filipino silent film entitled Dalagang Bukid in 1919. The film starred Atang de la Rama, a future national artist of the Philippines. He also directed Un El Capullo Marchito in 1920. It started Luisa Acuna, who then became a famous leading lady in the Filipino silent films. He started with the hit silent film Dalagang Bukid, Country Maiden. The Dalagang Bukid is the first in the Philippine cinema art. The first sound film in the country was shown in 1929. Next po. Um, this is his famous films, Dalagang Bukid, La Venganza de Don Silvestre in 1920, Un Capullo Marchito in 1920, Ang Tatlong Hambog or The Three Hambugs in 1926, and Ang Manananggal in 1927, Hot Kisses and in 1927, and so on.
So let's move on to the syncopation. So in cinema, syncopation refers to the rhythmic manipulation of timing in sound or visuals. To create unexpected shifts or emotional effects. So it often involves disrupting regular patterns in editing, music, or pacing to keep the audience engaged or to emphasize tension and drama. So this technique is borrowed from music but applied creatively in films. So what is a syncopation? So this film was from America, shown locally in Santa Cruz, Manila. The golden age of Philippine cinema was in the 1950s. So it was in this decade that the first award ceremony of the Filipino Academy of Movie Arts and Sciences or FAMAS, Filipino Academy of Movie and Arts and Science. So awards one was on stage. Award giving body that still exists today is composed of prize winning writers and columnists. So during 1950s, Philippine cinema experienced a significant cultural and artistic boom known as its golden age. This era was marked by the production of high-quality films, the rise of prominent filmmakers, and the formation of influential film organizations. One key highlight of this decade was the establishment of the FAMAS. So the famous awards, which began in 1950s, were the Philippines' first formal award giving body dedicated to recognizing excellence in filmmaking. So FAMA still exists today and continues to be composed of well-respected writers, columnists, and film critics. The FAMA's trophy show, next po. The FAMA's trophy symbolizes the prestige and honor associated with being recognized in the Filipino film industry. Next po.
Now let us proceed to the last part of cinema, which is the indie films. So before we proceed to the emergence of indie films, take a look back what is indie film. So independent film, or from the short word indie film, is a movie made by independent filmmakers or small companies, not by big movie studios. So the big movie studios are the Universal, Disney. So as we can see when we watch American movies, they have an intro, which is the Universal. Here in the Philippines, we have Star Cinema, APT Entertainment, and many more, which is the small companies. So it usually has a low budget and focuses more on storytelling and creativity than on special effects of or famous actors. So now, next slide. So the emergence of indie films. Digital and experimental cinema become trend. S- So with new technology, it became easier and cheaper to film using digital cameras. Because of this, filmmakers could try new styles and creative ways of storytelling. This made movies more artistic and original. Next is the new filmmakers would only need a meager budget to produce films. So one reason indie films grew was that they didn't need a lot of money to make. Even students or the first time directors could produce good movies with limited resources. What mattered most was the story and creativity. Next, these movies were independent from mainstream producers and were hence not bounded with limitations. So, since indie films are not made by big studios, filmmakers are free to talk about any topic they want. They are not controlled by commercial rules, so they can show real issues, social problems, or unique characters that are not usually seen in mainstream movies. Next, most notable indie films in last 15 years. We have Crying Ladies, released in 2003 by Mark Melly. So this film is about professional mourners, women who are paid to cry at funerals. It mixes comedy and drama while showing Filipino traditions, poverty, and personal struggles. Next, we have Magnifico, released in 2003 by Mario J. De Los Reyes, a touching story about a young boy named Magnifico who tries to help his family and others around him. Next, Cubrador, released in 2006 by Jeffrey Jeturian. So this movie follows an old woman who collects bets for an illegal numbers game. So that game is called Juteng. Next is the Service, released in 2008 by Brillante Mendoza. So this movie set in an old movie theater. This film shows a family dealing with poverty, secrets, and social issues. It became well known for its bold and realistic storytelling. And lastly, we have Planning, released in 2008 by Dante Nico Garcia. So, a beautifully filmed story about love, waiting, and sacrifice based on a woman named Ploning in a small island community. So, it highlights Filipino values and traditions. And next, we have Highest Grossers. So, this movie, so the highest grossers, these movies earned the most money in ticket sales in Philippine cinema. They were all mainstream romantic films that became very popular with audiences because of their relatable stories, famous actors, and strong emotional appeal. So, these are the list of highest grossing Filipino films of all time as of May 2015. First, we have Starting Over Again, released in 2014. So, starring Piolo Pascual and Tony Gonzaga. A romantic drama about two ex-lovers who reunite after many years. Next, we have Bride for Rent, released in 2014. So, starring Kim Soo and Sian Lim, a fun and light rom-com where a man hires a woman to act as his wife so he can claim an inheritance, but they unexpectedly fall in love. So, next we have Crazy Beautiful You, released in 2015. So, starring Daniel Padilla and Catherine Bernardo. This teen romance follows a rebellious girl who meets a charming boy during a medical mission. And lastly, we have She's Dating the Gangster, released in 2014. So, starring again Daniel Padilla and Catherine Bernardo, based on a popular Wattpad story. This film tells the story of a fake relationship that turns real, filled with drama, heartbreak, and young love. So that's all for the indie films.
So, let's proceed to the Visayan films. So, because this is a short film, 3 minutes long, it's important that you are very clear about the message you want to communicate. So, state the storyline, purpose, or the theme in one clear sentence before you begin. You can come back to this plan to help keep yourselves on track if you start to stray off topic. So, a standard rule of thumb is that one page of script equals 1 minute of screen time. If in doubt, read the finished script out loud and time it to make sure it fits within the parameters of the task. Next po. Women in Philippine cinema. Women is in Philippine cinema. So they are considered as the jewels of the Philippine cinema. Then the second one is women were the lead actors in films. Stimulus options. Rosa Rosa, the original film fatal of Philippine cinema. Carmen Rosales, she was the original queen of Philippine movies. Atang Galarama, the original queen of musical theater and the first movie actress in the country. Then last is Carmen Concha, the first female director in the country. These are their pictures. That's all. Thank you for listening.